Come join Greg and Richard right here on Talking Red.
Hello and welcome to Talking Reds, a Nottingham Forest podcast. 7 Premier League games to go and the run-in starts on Saturday. I'm your host, Greg Oram, along with my fellow Forest fanatic from across the Atlantic, Richard Spray.
Just what is it that you want to do?
Well, we want to be free. We want to be free to do what we want to do. And we want to get loaded. And we want to have a good time. That's what we're going to do. We're going to have a good time. We're going to have a party.
Whoa! Hey! Ghanaian! Hey, what?
I mean, the music is blaring from that dressing room. I mean, first of all, is that music all for you in there? Because what?
No, come.
I didn't know you had that in your locker.
Yeah, sometimes it comes out, you know what I mean?
When I heard Callum when he walking back into the dressing room going, I didn't know you had that in your locker.
I like to surprise everyone, but yeah, it's just bounced up right and then I was knackered anyway, so I just thought I might as well hit it.
Did you expect it to nestle in the top corner?
It's something like that, yeah.
We miss him. Hopefully he's back soon. I thought I'd do an Oliver Arnott intro for you, Richard. How you doing, mate?
Oh, I'm doing good. Whoa. Yeah, I love that. That's brilliant, man. So good. Oh, so great. Yeah, he's fantastic. Yeah, we do really miss him. But yeah, doing great. Looking forward to Saturday.
Excellent. And away defeat, and all of a sudden many in the fan base are on squeaky bum time. But this is a Forest team that has shown time and time again that writing them off is for fools. And the spirit and togetherness in this group has overcome adversity on more than one occasion to prove they are indeed the real deal. Everton visit the City Ground on Saturday, and the Reds can help their cause no end by putting 3 points on the board as the games run out and the challenges below fall away. On the panel today, Richard and I welcome Paul Morley, and all the way from Down Under, it's Scott Terry.
We've got the world's deadliest creatures all over the place. We've got magpies who'll steal the eyeballs from your face. But at least we don't have AR-15s. We've got great white sharks who'll ascend from the deep and rip you in half with their razor-sharp teeth. We've got saltwater crocs who'll death roll you to death, and sea snakes who'll gladly snatch your last breath. We've got a blue-ringed octopus no bigger than this that just sits around in rock pools waiting to kill kids, and even the platypus, a cute beaver duck thing, has got a spur on its ankle that'll kill you in one sting. But at least we don't have AR-15.
G'day, Scott. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, g'day, guys. Hello from Down Under. Yeah, I'm going well, thank you. Ready for a big game on Saturday, and hoping that we bounce back from Villa. But yeah, feeling good.
Excellent. And with us as well, Mr. Paul Morley. How are you, sir?
Very well, thank you. Good. Looking forward to the weekend. As always, get that Thursday feeling. It feels like we're getting closer and closer to match day again. So yeah, I'm good, feeling positive. I want to ask Scott a question actually. I popped up on my YouTube that Madge is back from the dead in Neighbours. Don't know if you saw that.
I haven't watched Neighbours for a few years now, so I'm not aware about Madge making any reappearances. Was it because Harold was come back, or
I saw it? I think she's back, but she's not Madge. It's like
that's right.
Anne Charleston, the actress, is back, and she looks like Madge, and she is Madge, obviously. But yeah, it's only in Soapland, only in Australia, in Soapland can you bring back someone from the dead like that. Anyway, let's move on. Don't forget to get involved in the comments. Let us know you're here. We'll give shout outs and all the rest of it. Apple and Spotify listeners that are joining us later on, thank you so much for doing so as well.
Please do go ahead and hit like and subscribe to be sure not to miss any future episodes from Talking Reds.
Yeah, please hit like and subscribe, guys. It certainly helps us out. Richard, we are off the back of a defeat. And yeah, as I said in the opening, one or two nerves are now kicking in. 7 games to go. Everton visit the City Ground on Saturday. What are your general thoughts going into this one, bud?
Yeah, you look at how they set up. They're a very similar team in the sense that they do this 4-2-3-1 setup. They play low possession. They play defensively. Even with Moyes coming in, I think that's kind of been somewhat of his calling card in the past as well. But they seem to be not riddled as much as we are, but they seem to have some injury woes as well. And Jai is just coming back. I think his first match back in quite some time, I think, was at Arsenal. So, they got some challenges just like we do, but and they've been a bogey team in the past. I think we beat them once since we've been back in the Premier League. So it's definitely one of those teams that's going to be a challenge, going to be a dogfight. But at the same time, I feel confident coming off of a loss when we did that a few weeks ago. I think we strung off 1 draw and 3 consecutive wins. So I think we got it within us. We're at the City Ground, our fortress. So I feel pretty confident that we're gonna get the 3 points, and we need to get momentum back and continue to progress towards Europe.
Some first hellos in the chat to that Garibaldi nerd. Good morning. And Brucey to you. Good morning over in Texas. And Holly from the Forest Women Fancast is in the chat. She says, morning, lads. And Holly, I want to quickly give you a shout out because you're a legend. And Holly has had a conundrum. The Forest Women final game of the season is the same day as the FA Cup semi-final against Man City. And of course, FA Cup semi-finals at Wembley don't come around very often, but neither do final games of the season that could see the women's team clinch promotion, if it possibly isn't clinched by then already. And of course, Holly has followed the women's team week in, week out, day in, day out. And of course, she can't desert her girls, and nor should you. So Holly is going to the women's game and putting them first, and we salute you for that. So Holly, you're a legend. We're going to get a double win that day to soften the blow. But Holly, thanks for being with us in the chat. You are a star. Paul, team shape is something we always talk about quite early on this podcast, and we'll get straight into it now because it feels like, selection and team shape has been the real talking point over the past week with what happened at Villa, with the right wing back situation, with Dominguez coming in, the back 3. We didn't have Moreno for Villa. He's back this Saturday. We don't expect Aina to be back. We're still not sure about Chris Wood and his return. Awoniyi probably written off for the rest of the season, potentially if it's a hammy. I mean, let's talk about shape and let's talk about selection. Where are you at, buddy?
I think for this particular game, I think we revert back to what served us well for the majority of the season, particularly at home. So I'd be personally looking to go back to a back 4. Obviously, the fact that Moreno is available makes that transition a lot more straightforward in terms of personnel, and you've got square pegs in square holes rather than round pegs in square holes, whichever way around it is, as we had last week with Dominguez filling in at sort of right wing back. So I think that back 4 is how I'd go to approach this game. To the rest of the personnel that you've got on screen, like you say, a lot of it depends on kind of who's available, who isn't. I think Everton feels like a Yates kind of game, and Richards sort of referred to it earlier as being a bit of it'll be a bit of a dogfight. So I'd be minded to have Yates and Anderson in the middle of the park like that, and probably Gibbs White where you've got Dominguez, or even again in that sort of floating role where he floats between coming into a bit of a 3 and a 10, and then that sort of leaves the conundrum of, and I'm assuming Elanga is fit. I know he came off, and Nuno said he was not 100% right, but I think it looks like from the videos and stuff he's been training as normal during the week, so I'd expect him to start. And I think you've just hit the nail on the head there with the man that came on and made such a positive impact in the second half at Villa. Is Jota Silva. So assuming that Taiwo and Wood, neither of them are available, what you've got on screen there is pretty much what I would go with. Obviously, again, the slightly unfortunate one, and we said this a lot of times recently, is probably Dominguez. And whilst he didn't obviously maybe have his best game last week, we can kind of forgive him that he was sort of playing in an unfamiliar role. But I think, as I say, come back to what I said. This feels like a Yates kind of get stuck in game. That they're a physical side. Not that Dominguez can't throw himself about, but just feels like Yates to be there to win fouls and be that sort of motivator in the middle of the pitch when things are getting a bit physical. That he brings that quality to the team. So yeah, that what you've got on screen there is how I would personally set up. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the other guys think and whether they agree that going back to a back four is the right thing to do.
So those that can't see the screen, what I've got is a 4-2-3-1 with Moreno on the left back slot, Nico Williams on the right, Murillo and Milenkovic, a midfield two of Anderson Yates, and then the Hudson-Odoi, Gibbs White and Alanga in those three positions you'd expect, and Jota Silva as the figurehead. And his second half performance, that spark, that nibbling Jack Russell type performance, Scott, was what we really wanted and needed. And he certainly has made a difference coming off the bench to a certain degree in terms of him being able to score goals. How are you feeling about that lineup? Would you do something different, or are you pretty sure that might be it?
No, I think Paul's bang on with those selections. I think we're always going to have this conversation, Yates versus Dominguez, but I'm leaning towards Yates as well against an Everton team that typically like to be, a sort of physical side. Having Yates in there for that sort of physical presence, I think will work well for us. I also feel like the four at the back. I know it's a real shame that Aina is injured. But I think that we're really fortunate that we can have Nico Williams that can swap sides, and we can bring Moreno in as well. He had some fantastic games at the very start of the season. He sort of had a bit of a dip, and now he's coming back. So yeah, it's good to see him back in the side as well. And I think Silva, it's kind of uncanny. I mean, we've sort of described it almost like he comes on the pitch. And he's like a burst balloon. He's sort of everywhere. He's doing all sorts of things, But I think seeing him play in that more central role against Villa, you saw he's got those attributes. He's not necessarily a classic winger. He's not particularly pacey. He doesn't, he can take people on, but that doesn't seem to be his first instinct at times. So I think playing him in that central role, as you mentioned, Greg, he's sort of dogged, he's determined, he's kind of chasing everything down. So yeah, I think we're back at home. Let's go back to the attacking, 4-2-3-1, and look at. I think we should give Silva another go. I think he's shown more than enough. I mean, the reality is we might have to give him another go anyway, because obviously Woody and Taiwo both injured. But yeah, I like that formation. I think that will serve us well. So yeah, looking forward to it, to getting back to Hudson-Odoi, Alanga and Gibbs White as that sort of attacking front three. Very positive side, positive result, I hope.
Good morning to Graham Hedworth in the comments. Says Toffee's midfield is weak. We should use our speed on transition. I think that means supposed to say from defence to attacking play. And Wayway NFFC Mark in the comments with the £2 donation. Thank you again, Mark. You are a star. He says we haven't lost at home since Newcastle, November the 10th. I was there for that as well. And so I'm hoping that we don't see another defeat this Saturday. Big Arn says, hey up Reds. Big Arn, you're a legend. Nice to have you with us as well. Richard, last week against Villa, I felt that there were too many players playing in positions that they weren't used to. We saw Dominguez in the right back slot, wing back slot. We saw Alanga kind of pushing up. We saw him kind of overloading on the left. Gibbs White was trying to play more centrally, and it just felt like too many changes or too many experiments, if you like, were happening. And I know that we pulled it around in the second half, and Jota Silva was dogged, as Scott has just said, and his S-housery comes into play, certainly to rile up the likes of Emilio Martinez in the Villa goal and so on. And I know one or two people have said, I'm a bit worried about Jota's ability to pick up an early yellow. I must admit, I'm less worried about that. I think he has settled down a little bit, and he's not quite so frenetic when he comes on. He has a style about him. And what I want to see is Alanga and Hudson-Odoi in the flanks. And Graham's right when he says we should use the transition from defence to attacking play, because that is really what our season has been built on. And Anderson giving it to Gibbs White, to Alanga, and so on and so on. If Yates comes in, great. If it's Dominguez, no problem at all. I think many of us have said, and I think, Paul, I heard you say in a previous conversation somewhere, that Moreno is not just the replacement left back, but he's probably the closest in terms of quality to the rest of the first 11. There's not much of a drop off between him and the rest of them, as opposed to if, we love Toff, but if it was Toff that had to come in, the drop off is a bit deeper, isn't it? So Moreno and Nico, Richard, in the sort of fullback areas is as strong as perhaps it could be. So, we always try and make a case for the back three. I don't think that's going to happen this weekend. But where are you at? Is it Jota Silva up top, or do we try the Elanga experiment again?
No, I think keeping Elanga where he is, while I think he can he can be serviceable in that false nine role. I like him on the right, as you said, with that pace and taking on those defenders and creating problems, because they're a very low block team. So you're not going to get behind them as easily as maybe you could have getting behind a Villa, but we didn't kind of play our traditional formation against them, obviously. So, but yeah, Silva, to me, I think he doesn't, it's not going to require him. I mean, Wood will drop deep a little bit and play defensively. Certainly on set pieces, he'll come back and provide value there. But Silva is good in the air. So from that perspective, I think he can do some things, not obviously the same as Wood would be, given that Wood's 6'3". But Silva also is so tenacious inside that box. And he loves to be in and around that box, locating spaces, being disruptive in a different way, right? He's gonna manage that position differently, obviously, than Wood would do it, and he can finish. I mean, we've seen when he's been on the pitch, and he's provided value from that sense too. But yeah, I like the idea of Hudson-Odoi and Elanga playing their sort of traditional roles. They've been deploying on Everton's side. They've been deploying Jake O'Brien as a right back, which I don't think is his traditional position. So you got Hudson-Odoi who can take advantage of that. Obviously, O'Brien's a pretty decent athlete, but he's not nearly as adept on, and as quick as Hudson-Odoi is. Moreno having that opportunity to kind of play that traditional wingback role when you're playing against a side who's not good on the counter. They don't have quite the same firepower on their wings as they normally do. Jack Harrison's a very challenging player at times. He's quick, and so forth, cut in on that left foot, but they just don't have the quality, I think, to stress us to where we feel like we have to continue to play that low block consistently throughout the entirety of this match. We've got far more quality on the attack. We're better on the counter. We're better in build-up play. We're better on set pieces than they are. But they are decent on set pieces too, so it lends the need to possibly have a Ryan Yates in there, because I think they're they're ninth in the Premier League in terms of scoring off set pieces. So having someone like with Ryan's height and physicality is a good person to have in the box as well. And as Paul alluded to and Scott talked about, being that disruptor in the middle would be great, because any type of midfield play that they want to try to generate, he's good, as well as Anderson at kind of, clogging up those lanes and not allowing them to have opportunities to create windows for passing and so forth to get into the box. But they're just not a good attacking team, evidenced by the fact that I think we have 18 more goals than they do this season. They have 33 total. So yeah, I love the way we're set up here. I think this is exactly the way it needs to go. I think it's the right balance. It provides, like Paul said, I mean, you put these guys like Moreno an opportunity to do what they do well, which is go on that overlap with Hudson-Odoi, crossing the ball in, creating problems, giving Jota opportunities, maybe not so much airily, but certainly on the ground, and get him into those spaces to be able to finish.
Paul, what sort of approach do you want to see from Forest on Saturday? Because we are that team that allows the opposition to have a lot of the ball. We know the low possession stats, and we've told that story countless times. But it's an Everton team that aren't great going forwards. It feels to me like we probably will have more of the ball. What kind of approach are you hoping for from Nuno from the off?
I think, to be honest, if you think about the second half against Villa, we had a lot more of the ball than they did, and we looked pretty good. So I don't think we should be afraid of taking the initiative. I mean, yes, you're right in terms of low possession and sitting back and hitting on the counter has worked well, but we've seen, the two examples where we've really had to force the issue, which was the second half at Newcastle and the second half at Villa, and we've taken control of the game, had the vast majority of the ball, and been the better team. So, I think that should, coming off the back of that second half, should give us the confidence to go into this game on the front foot and try and dictate the pace ourselves. So yeah, that's what I'd like to see. I mean, again, it'd be interesting to see what Everton do, and it could be a case of it being a fairly cagey first half if both teams are happy to sit back, and it might be one of those where it waits till the second half before it sort of comes to life. But I would like to see us take the initiative and start on the front foot. Just coming back to the team just quickly, I guess the one thing that we don't quite know for 100% is whether Elanga is fit, and I think that's where, if he wasn't unable to start, then I think you've got sort of three different options, haven't you? Potentially you throw Sosa in as a like for like. That means you're starting with Sosa and Jota. You could put Dominguez there, We know he's done a job sort of on the right-hand side, or even Danilo. Or you could go to the back three in the event that Elanga isn't fit, and then you've got your additional width coming from the wing back. So I think that'd be interesting to know. I think Elanga's the key. If he's fit, that's I think the side that we go with. If he's not, then there's a number of different ways that we can go.
With the fullback areas being so solid for us, Scott, and Ola Aina missing out, I feel, as I said before, that's an area I'm not too worried about this weekend. Moreno coming in and Nico Williams. Nico Williams is kind of, I wouldn't say gone under the radar, but there's been a lot of talk about Milenkovic being brilliant, Murillo being brilliant, Anderson, Gibbs-White, Woods, Elanga, and so on and so on and so on. But Nico Williams has been another player who has been consistent, has put in so many fantastic performances, I think. And he celebrated 100 appearances. There was that lovely team photograph with him and all the squad getting the 100 frame shirt. What have you made of Nico Williams? How important is he going to be for us going forwards into next year's Champions League?
Yeah, look at his versatility. You know, he can play on both sides, and that flexibility, really works well for us. I think the fact that he's consistently kind of flown under the radar, as you've said, Greg, you know, some of the performances that we've seen from other players in the team, there's always been someone, you know, we've had many games this season where a majority of players have had an 8 and have been really good. So I just think that's just a sign of him flying under the radar. It's just a sign of the fact that we've got so many performers who are playing well, and it just shows that real team spirit and everyone playing at a really sound level. And you're also then getting, every now and again, you're getting one particular player that's just going that little bit higher, whether it's, you know, Sells or Milenkovic, Morgan, you know, Elanga. It's just, you know, it's so, you know, all of those players, all of them have had a man of the match performance, you know, during the season, because the levels have been so high. And I think as a consequence, Nico's, as you say, has sort of flown under the radar. Probably not so good for him, but just Mr. Consistency. You guarantee a sound game from him every game. So yeah, I think he's been a big part of this the success of this Forest team this season. And yeah, long may it continue. He's a brilliant player.
He is a brilliant player. He's not with us today because scheduling meant that Danscape and Raf neither could come on. We're thrilled to have Paul and Scott with us, but no Danscape. But we are still going to do this.
I'm a stat man.
Fazendo som, Pedrinha Moraes fazendo som, e Pedrinha Moraes fazendo som.
And I lean into Danscape's Statman intro because I'm actually leaning on Danscape's stats from his website. So these are from Danscape. These are the Statman's work from NottinghamForestStats.co.uk. So if you haven't checked out Dan's website, then go and check it out. It's brilliant. So this is from Danscape. All right. So he's put together a few graphs as ever. And the first one you can see on screen is the form comparison. Now, this shows the new manager bounce has dropped and it kind of has gone back into the red zone for Everton on the right-hand side. You can see David Moyes' picture from where he took over, and you can see there was a real climb going quite high up. So there was a set of games where they were winning, it seemed like back-to-back games for a while. That's dropped off now, and they are now back into the red zone of below a point a game. So Forest have been pretty steady. And obviously we had the high point, as you can see in the middle there. There was that drop off as well, but we're back on the run up again. So, you know, going into this one, it definitely shows Forest's form is still better than Everton's. The next one is about opposition rank comparison. This shows that when Moyes came in, it was after Everton's toughest run of games. So, again, you can see on the right-hand side, the Moyes picture. Ahead of him coming in, Everton had faced probably their toughest set of fixtures. And, yeah, Sean Dyche ended up getting the sack because he didn't manage to get the points required from their hierarchy's point of view. But Moyes comes in, does put together a set of wins, as I've just said, but the opposition weren't quite as tough as Sean Dyche had to face. Forest on the left-hand side, you can see that it's been quite an even set of consistency where we've had tough games mixed in with so-called more relatively less tough games. And obviously, as we go into the running now, we know that we are facing a lot of teams that are featuring in the bottom half of the table. So then we have the goals comparison, shows the little scoring burst is over for Everton. Again, on the right-hand side, you've got the Moyes picture from when he took over, and then it shoots straight up when they were scoring more goals than they had been. Again, back to averaging just 1 goal per game. We'll move on just a bit more as well. Goals against comparison shows that they have been good consistently in defence. No wild swings in the way that Forest have had, because you can see that, you know, we've had the Bournemouth game, we've had the Newcastle game. So there were some moments for Forest when, you know, the defence fell apart and we were worried that was going to happen last week against Villa. Everton seems to be a little bit more consistent. So when they're losing games, it's been not by them getting tanked on occasion. Moving forward, goals difference and expected goals difference shows that they're back to underperforming their expected goal difference at the moment. So Forest did drop off earlier in the season. Forest on the left-hand side, again, the expected goals difference and goal difference is still pretty good for Forest. Everton's just dropped back down again. So again, shows that Forest going into this one are still in better form than Everton. The chance quality comparison shows Everton continue to create better chances for themselves under Moyes, but they're still not putting them away. So they're creating good chances under David Moyes, still having problems in front of goal. The shot conversion comparison shows a big drop from Moyes' early games where Everton were very clinical and Beto was largely responsible for a lot of that. So again, it kind of points towards that the new manager bounce with David Moyes was a real thing for Everton, but it has certainly settled down. They're definitely safe, and he's talked about not visiting the new stadium until that was mathematically the case. They're not going to go down. We know it's going to be Ipswich, Leicester and Southampton. Pretty confident about that. So how much that factors into Everton's players' minds in the last 7 games of the season, because I think they're going to be featuring against 1 or 2 of our challenges as well. So it'd be interesting to see what kind of Everton turns up week in, week out with them probably safe. Then there's the save comparison as well. Now, this is an interesting one that Danscape has pulled out. He says the save percentage comparison shows a constant decline since Moyes was appointed, from a very good form at the end of the Dyche reign. So Jordan Pickford's form under David Moyes has dropped quite a bit on the stats from what Danscape has put together. We know about Matt Sells. We know he's been an incredible goalkeeper for Forest this season. His saves have been something that have kept us in games at times and have meant that we've been able to grab points. Pickford regularly outperforms a lot of goalkeepers in the Premier League, certainly when it comes to FPL stats as well. But there has been a drop-off from him. And then the final one as well, the post-shot XG, it reinforces the above that Pickford's form has been in constant decline. So there we go. That was my effort of being Danscape. I'm not quite sure I managed to pull it off in quite a succinct manner that he does. I was definitely reading his website and definitely leaning on his graphs. Danscape, you're a legend, but we can't do a preview show without having some of Danscape's stats in there. So I've done all of that. I'll take a deep breath. Richard, Everton seem to be dropping off under David Moyes lately. As I said, it looks like they're safe. Is that going to play a factor in the Everton players' minds, do you think? Are they going to have a drop-off in their approach?
I don't think so. I think for whatever reason, whenever they play Forest, they seem to go, take it up another level. I don't know what that is, generated from, but they certainly are, as you pointed out, wanting to close the season out strong. I certainly am not worried about what they'll present. I just think the quality is lacking. I think the especially from an attacking sense. And so, how well we played defensively against better teams, I think this is not one that I'd worry about from that perspective. So I don't know if it's necessarily going to drop off. I just don't think they're going to be much of a threat. They may continue to play very defensively oriented and try to, keep people at bay, keep them out of the box, keep them, sort of regulated in that middle to final third, but they're not going to be one that really scores a lot of goals. So from that standpoint, they're going to have to rely on an occasional set piece goal or an occasional counter goal. But even then, I think they've scored 3 counter goals in the entire season. So there's just a lot lacking there. So no, I don't think it's necessarily a massive drop off per se, but I just don't think they pose much of a threat from an attacking standpoint, but they make up for it to a degree with their back line.
Listen, Everton are a team, Paul, that we've got a little bit of niggle against it, I suppose, in the last couple of years in the Premier League. They've kind of been rivals for us in relegation terms, and there was the penalties last season with, when that tweet came out at Goodison. But, we beat them 2-0 earlier in the season. Wood and Gibbs-White with 2 really good goals. We find ourselves still in 3rd position. Lucky results to a certain extent last weekend. When I say lucky, what I mean is we lost, and none of the teams around us were able to really seriously capitalise on that. 2 draws for Man City and Chelsea, respectively. And then the Man City game was a very dire affair. Does this feel to you now, then, given that we lost last season and we had a bit of a let-off, does this feel to you like this could possibly be the most important 3 points of the season up for grabs?
Kind of feels like that every home game now, doesn't it? I mean, it felt like that with Man United. It feels like that today. Yeah, I think you're right. I think, but in terms of other teams dropping points, that's going to continue to happen between now and the end of the season, and we'll be in the same boat. We'll drop points as well. Hopefully not this weekend. I think the way I'm looking at it, in terms of the run-in, is almost sort of parking the Chelsea game to one side and looking at the other 6 games we've got, and looking at basically three pairs. So you've got Everton, Spurs, Palace, Brentford, and Leicester, West Ham. And if we can win one of each of those 3, win 1 out of the 2 in each of those 3 pairs, that's 9 points, which I think is going to be enough. So I think this weekend could be, hopefully, we win this first one of this pair, and that sort of gets our noses in front, essentially. And then it takes the pressure off for the next game. So yeah, I'm confident. It is a big 3 points, but I think the players have got they've shown the wherewithal to be able to step up in the big moments every time they've been asked this season. So I don't see that being any different this time. And you're just going to have to excuse me because my window's just opened for.
Yes, I was about to say. So semi-final tickets.
A couple of minutes.
Paul's window's opened, so he's here and going live now to try and get tickets. So Paul is with us, but his face is looking at a different screen to try and see if he can get in. So what we'll do, we'll have a quick break, and hopefully this will make you ready for lunch.
The Cheese Trader, based on Grape Lane in York, is a cheese lover's paradise. Home to some wonderful specialty cheeses, relishes and chutneys, and also with a fantastic street food menu. Try their loaded fries or posh cheese on toast. It'll be the best you've ever had. Owned by Forest fan Stu Freestone, the Cheese Trader proudly sponsors Talking Reds. Quote Talking Reds every time to get 10% off your order. The Cheese Trader and Talking Reds, the perfect cheesy mix.
Our women's team, as I mentioned earlier, are hopefully going to make it another fabulous day on that FA Cup semi-final day, when they either clinch promotion on that day or they're lifting the trophy. They're away this Sunday against Liverpool Feds. Liverpool Feds are in 6th. Forest beat them 4-0 back in February at the City Ground. Forest women are still top on goal difference, 49 points, tied with Wolves. They have that game in hand, remember. It's in their hands. We hope, we've got lots of high expectations in our women's team now. We hope that they can do it and get promoted into the Championship, which is the 2nd tier in women's football. Scott, back to the men. Are we now in the territory that if we drop out of the Champions League places, that it's a disaster? At the start of the season, that would have sounded crazy, but we are where we are. We've gone through a whole season. We've been in the top 3 since about November, December time or something like that. If we don't make Champions League, are we going to be gutted?
Absolutely, we'll be gutted. Is it going to happen? I don't think so. I'm feeling confident. I think we start off with Everton on Saturday, and to me that is the springboard that we need to really to get 3 points, to win again at home, bounce back from the Villa game. I think we're in a very strong position. We've got points. We've got points in the bag. Other teams have got have potentially got games in hand, but we've got points on the board. To me, that is much more important than games. So I think we're in a great position. I think we were talking about it on the call just before we came on, weren't we? That I think there was some analysis which Paul did around all the teams that are sort of chasing us. We've got Chelsea, Villa, Man City, and I think probably Newcastle. They're probably the four closest. But all those teams have to play each other or play other teams from sort of like the top six or the top half of the table. So I think at some point those teams are going to drop points, and we're already ahead. So provided we, I think that idea of like treating games like in twos. If we can win one each of those, and even ideally even more, then I think we've put ourselves in a great position to make sure that we get European football next season. So I'm confident. I don't think I think we're going to stay where we are, and I think we're going to be in Europe next season.
We're going to be in Europe next season, Richard. But again, I guess the question at the moment is which competition. So I popped the Premier League table on the screen again because it is so lovely to look at, and it's a joy to see us sitting in third. 57 points. So we are 4 points ahead of Chelsea on 53. Also on 53 are Newcastle. They've got the game in hand. I would always prefer to have points on the board rather than games in hand. But Newcastle is still riding the crest of a wave after winning the Carabao Cup, Richard. So, hopefully an injury to Isak. Nothing too serious. We don't want anyone getting hurt. But players are getting left out or ruled out or whatever that can help us. I'm going to take it. I'm not going to lie. It feels to me, Richard, I mean, Villa are kind of in the mix as well. They're on 51 points. So going down to 7th. We now know there's going to be 5 places guaranteed. The win for Arsenal the other night, and what a fantastic win, by the way. Declan Rice, 2 amazing free kicks, credit where it's due. No one saw that coming. Well done, Arsenal. 5 places for the Premier League now. 2 are gone. Liverpool and Arsenal, definitely they're in. So that leaves now then 3 places, what looks like for me 5 teams. 5 into 3 doesn't quite go. Forest, Chelsea, Newcastle, City and Villa. So what are you thinking, Richard? We've got that buffer, but we know that Forest have it. Well, this team don't. Historically, teams wearing red at the City ground have it in them to capitulate. Is it going to happen again? Dare we dream yet?
I think we do dream, and I think we feel very confident in that dream simply because, as you pointed out, we've shown the consistency of form to stay in that position throughout an extended period of time. And so even when we have moments where we don't play up to our level, we come right back, the next week or within a game itself, as we pointed out with way we played against Villa on last week. It feels like that we have that mental fortitude. We have that sort of the right culture, the right structure to continue to not allow ourselves to get down. Even when we're missing key pieces, people step up and they play well. We've seen that happen. And Bruce rightly points out the entire season's been a dream. And, part of me says, if we end up in Europa, I mean, considering where we were projecting ourselves at 12th, I think is what we predicted, which some people thought was kind of optimistic, honestly. Certainly if you compare it to what Jamie Carragher said, which was what we were getting relegated. But I wouldn't say it would be a massive disappointment per se, in the sense that we've come a long way in a very short span of time. We've seen a lot of good development from key players. We've seen a lot of good recruiting to bring in some decent depth. And I think it just puts us in a position that the part that I think will be the most disappointing, and this sounds terrible to put it in these terms because we're talking about it in terms of monetary value, is the opportunity to accelerate what kind of quality of players we can bring in by getting that revenue coming in. So that to me would be a big disappointment, because I think it only adds to the ability to continue to exponentially improve the squad, even though we love who we have on the squad currently. But I'm very optimistic, as you pointed out, with there still being 2 other spots we can slide to, with the Man City's playing better but still not to their level. Aston Villa is definitely a worry because of the form they've been in recently, but again, that doesn't mean that they won't have tougher games to go. And I'm not looking at the schedule right now. I know Dan put together a graphic that I was going to look at. I think Villa's got They've got Southampton, Newcastle, Manchester City. They got Newcastle at home, Manchester City away, Fulham at home, Bournemouth away, Tottenham at home, Manchester United away. So they certainly got, I think, more difficult fixtures on the horizon. So that helps me feel a little bit more confident they may not enter that mix as much as we would. Plus, they're still in the Champions League, right? So they've still got to play other. Well, no, they lost, didn't they? Lose to PSG.
They lost 3-1. Second leg to go. But
yeah, second leg. That's right.
PSG
so it's possible, Yeah, I mean, they've got to deal with managing that as well, just at least, for another game, possibly more if they end up winning and get the goal difference to advance. But yeah, I feel very, very confident that this is our opportunity to kind of solidify it. And with games against Leicester and games against Everton, that feels like, to me, maybe I'm being overly optimistic, 6 points in the bank. And that really cuts it down to where we probably just need another 3 points past that to really put ourselves in a position to stay there. So I can guarantee that.
In a moment, we're gonna look at the remaining Forest fixtures. We're gonna look at when they happen as well, because it feels to me that might play a part. I don't know, because there's some evening games. The last Saturday kickoff at 3 p.m. is happening against Everton. Just quickly, Paul, how's it going over there on the hunt for tickets? Have you managed to get in and get tickets?
Yeah, all done and dusted. Yeah,
that was quick. So
brilliant.
For those of us that don't know how the process has worked, a lot of fans will have tickets already. Just quickly take us through. Is it the Forest? You go into the Forest website, or is it a separate website?
So Forest website. The tip.
They send you a link today.
Yeah, no. So it's just go on the normal ticketing website, online ticketing. Choose Emirates FA Cup. The windows open at 12 o'clock each day. I would advise you to go on at 11. And then basically the website sort of shuts down at 11. It's a queue. So you go into the queue at 11 and it says, we'll update you'll be let in 55 minutes, 54 minutes, 53, etc. And then at 12 o'clock, it opens. It let me in after about 90 seconds today. Then you just get the stadium view. There's the tickets that, as of today, the vast majority of most of the top tier is still free. There's a very small number in the second tier, which are the premium tickets, which are 130 quid each. But there was, as of now, I wouldn't hesitate to guess a number, but looks like there's a good 15,000 tickets still available, I would say, just looking at what I can see on the screen, what I could see on the screen. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what that looks like after this evening. But yeah, so far, no problems. I did see people yesterday saying that stuff in their basket, stuff out of their basket, but I didn't have that issue myself. So hopefully, for everybody else that's due to go in either today or the next couple of days, they managed to get some. But yeah, I found it a fairly straightforward process.
Excellent. And yeah, today is window 4, tomorrow window 5. And I want to see people in the comments. Big Arna says I'm in window 5 tomorrow. Likely to sell out tomorrow. That's what the club have said. But, that might have also been said to try and get people, not that people needed geeing along. I think everyone was just clamping at the bit. I'm officially in window 7 on Tuesday, so I'm not holding out much hope. Spare a thought for us. But you know what? I think, as I've said before, the club have done it fairly. Fully support how difficult it is for everybody. People go to games week in, week out, and rightly might feel, look, I'm there, I'm doing my bit, and so I want a little bit of priority, and I haven't got a problem with that. Fair enough. And it's tough. We all want to go. If we could probably fill Wembley twice over, perhaps, who knows? Anyway, right. Let's get back to the episode, and let's get back to looking at the remaining fixtures. So we've got something again that Dan Scape, the stat man, has put together. We play Everton at 3 p.m. on Saturday. What I'm going to try and do, guys, between the four of us, let's just try and work out what kind of points we might get. We've got 57 at the moment. I think those are, many people have said 65, 66. Get to that points total, and that's enough to get you in the top 4 normally. And we're going to have 5 places this season. So, Everton at home on Saturday. It's 3 p.m. kickoff. Scott, a loss, a draw, or a win in your eyes?
Oh, we're at home. We're going to bounce back. So for me, that's going to be a win for us.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think 3 points. I mean, I think everyone else would be in agreement. So that if we're betting men, that's a 3-pointer, isn't it? Anyone else feel differently on that? Okay, right, 3 points there. Then we've got Spurs away. Now this has been moved again. A few of our games have been moved, and it's interesting. It's a Monday night. It's the Easter Monday game. So we're playing Spurs away. It's an 8 p.m. kickoff. I know, Paul, I think you said you're going to be able to go to that. I'm still hoping to. Do these evening games, Scott, do they matter? Do you think that evening games or kickoff times can play a part, can play a difference in outcomes?
Oh, I think a little bit, yeah. I mean, but still the players still have to still have to prepare themselves and be ready for every game. I actually think that when Forest play at home in an evening game, that's even more special. Obviously, the Spurs game is actually going to be in London, but certainly evening games at the City Ground, it's a special feeling. Walking over Trent Bridge, seeing the floodlights on, seeing the ground all lit up. So to me, that can be an even more of a lift for the players. Obviously, going away from home, I mean, I guess it's the same feeling for them, isn't it? It's a little bit more unusual that they're not used to their surrounding as much. So, but these days, players are so well prepared. I'm sure they've been, they've got the backroom staff talking to them and talking to them about being away from home. So, I think they'll be fine. I think they'll go well.
Paul, Spurs have been a funny club and team this season. What are your thoughts on points against them? I mean, are you taking a point here and now?
I think if we win on Saturday, then I'd absolutely take a point away at Tottenham. Then 4 from those 2 would be, I guess whichever way that comes. If you offer me 4 from those 2, that would be an excellent return, I think. Tottenham, you just don't know what you're going to get, do you? I mean, they're interesting. They've got a big game tonight, haven't they, home against Frankfurt. I think that when we played them, that is the weekend after they've played the second leg in Frankfurt. So I guess a lot of the mood around the club, i.e. Tottenham, might well depend on how they go in that, because if they win those 2 games, or if they go through that, then the club is buoyed and they're on a positive going into a semi-final of a European competition, but still with an opportunity to qualify for the Champions League, which conversely might mean that they pay less attention to that fixture and almost think, right, make sure we don't get anybody injured for the semi-final. Conversely, if they go out against Frankfurt ahead of that game against us, then their season's pretty much over. It's done. There's toxicity around the club. Everyone's probably this is what Ange's kind of hanging by a thread. It feels like this Frankfurt game. So a lot could depend on what happens to them in Europe over the next couple of weeks as to how they as a club and as a team go into that game. But I think either way, there's opportunity for us to capitalise, i.e. they go through, so therefore their kind of minds elsewhere, or they go out and there's, there's toxicity, there's bad feeling and an opportunity for us to sort of hammer another nail in the coffin. So wouldn't write off 3 points in that game, but all things considered, I'd be happy with 1.
So what you're saying, and I'm putting the gun to your head.
I go for a draw.
Going to go for a draw. I'll give us a point on that as well. I think, Richard, I'm coming to you for Brentford and Palace. I want to get your thoughts on. It's a 7:30 kickoff against Brentford at home, Thursday, 1st of May. So it's a Thursday night kickoff under the lights, and then we travel away to Palace for another game in the evening, 8 p.m. Monday, 5th of May. Again, evening kickoff. So, what are you thinking on these 2? Brentford, we know, been that kind of little bit of a bogey team, although we beat them away. We beat both these teams so far this season, but Palace have really hit some form. And Mateta, I think he's just gone from strength to strength. So the visit of Brentford first.
So they don't traditionally play as well away from home. Their goal scoring is dips when they play away from home. So my brain says this is a draw, but I think. And you said this was an evening kickoff as well, right?
Right, yeah, 7:30 p.m. Thursday, 1st of May.
Yeah, I'm going to say we get 3 points on this one. I think I'm hoping in these stretch of matches between Brentford, Crystal Palace, and then Leicester, we start to see some of our players come back. Fingers crossed. someone like Wood coming back, or potentially Aina coming back. And so that only makes things a lot more comfortable for me. I'm going to say Brentford's a 3-pointer. I think we can win that. And I think Crystal Palace, we just seem to draw against them. I mean, we beat them in the first match, but given how they've been playing, as you pointed out, Eza's been in really good form. So as you pointed out, Mateta's been in really good form. Yeah, I'm going to say that's 4 points from those two.
And it's worth pointing out as well that the Man City semi-final comes after Spurs and comes before Brentford. So again, going back to how that game goes and the kind of mood within the camp, we know we don't have Ryan Yates and Nico Williams playing in that semi-final. So will they be rested for the Spurs game ahead of that? I don't know. You'd expect them to come back in for Brentford as well. So it'd be interesting to maybe revisit the thoughts on the Brentford game once we know what the result in the semi-final is. Are we going to be feeling really deflated? So look, at the moment, we're doing quite well with the points total. The visit of Leicester, Paul, comes on Sunday, the 11th of May. That again has been moved favourably for me, because on the Saturday the 10th, I couldn't have watched it because I was going to be in a movable commitment. But now it's on the 2:15 kickoff, Sunday 11th of May. Leicester have become just as much of whipping boys as Southampton. It's guaranteed 3 points, surely, isn't it?
Yeah, you think so? Yeah, I think if we don't beat Leicester, then we might be struggling overall. So yeah, hopefully that's at 3 points. I just want to quickly go back to the Palace because I know that I know we've talked about it. They've got an absolute brutal run of fixtures this month.
Yeah.
They've got 5 games between now and the end of April. I think they play Newcastle away. I can't remember, is it maybe even Liverpool away? They've obviously got the cup game. They've got Bournemouth away and somebody else. They've got really.
They've got Man City, Newcastle. They've got all of them. I know you put it out on X.
Yeah, that's right. So that's going to really test that form going into that game. Although they've got obviously a bit of a break because we've got the Brentford game, so they've got 8-9 days after the semi-final before they play us. But yeah, so that will be interesting again to see how that plays in. But yeah, Leicester at home. Just come back to that question. I can't see past anything more than 3 points for that game.
And so West Ham away currently is set for 3 p.m. on Sunday, the 18th of May. However, that is FA Cup final weekend, and hopefully that means that we won't play that game against West Ham. So that's likely to be moved, you'd imagine, to a Tuesday or a Wednesday night at some point. So it could be done and dusted by then, Scott. It could be that we've got the points required and it's all, irrelevant. But West Ham away, it's a ground that we've gone to the last couple of seasons. We lost 4-0 and then we lost 3-2 last season. West Ham have been a little bit up and down again, nothing special. But if we have to go to West Ham and get 3 points, how confident are you?
Yeah, West Ham's form this season, as you say, has been really up and down. I think they're fifth from bottom at the moment. I mean, they are safe. You've already talked around those 3 teams, which are already pretty as good as down. But they have been the bogey team for us. We've struggled to beat them. We've not had good results down there, as you said. So I do wonder. But then again, you got to ask yourself, how much are they going to be up for the game? What are they playing for? They're playing for maybe a bit of respect, a bit of pride. But ultimately, they're not. I don't think that they're in any other. Yeah, they're in no other cup competitions, obviously. But they're just. I think for them, it's just playing for pride. And whereas Forest, we're still. We want to ensure that we get in that. In that top. In a minimum third place. So I think we will have more to play for. So although thinking about it, I still think that could be a draw. I still think we could go there and they could be dogged and determined. And especially if we've got the FA Cup final around that time, then that may mean that it could be a tougher game for us. So I'm going to say a point for that one.
Okay. And so last game of the season, Richard, let's suggest the worst has happened. We've had a little bit of a capitulation. We have hit a bit of rocky form. We've had injuries and all that kind of stuff, but we're still in with a shout. Let's say that we are sitting in 5th place and Chelsea are sitting in 6th, and it's the winner takes all for the 5th spot Champions League. The Forest managed to do it, Richard. Mute.
Excuse me. Yeah, you'd think after COVID we would never put ourselves on mute as much as we do still. But anyway, I think we win that match, and I think we win it regardless of what the situation dictates. Frankly, because I mean, if you go by the points that we've accumulated thus far, we're probably looking at around 68. Potentially, well, at least what I was saying, a win at Brentford and a Crystal Palace draw. If we're at 68, then that pushes us close to that 72, which is I think what we projected a few weeks ago to be our end total for the season, which we get awfully close to that. I think we win that match. They're just such a weird team to sort of process and think about because they're so hot and cold at times, you know, and they have such quality of players on the pitch. But there's something about playing them at home right at the end of the season that we just, you know, last season didn't work out as well, right? I think we lost 3-2, if I remember correctly. Was that right? We lost to Chelsea at the end. So, but I think this is a different season. How we set up, how we play consistently week in and week out. That seems to me to be a win, a good way to kind of close out the season. If it is in that situation, do or die, to stay in that 5th position. I like us to be up for that moment. As I said, I hope that the players that we know typically are part of that starting 11 are playing in that match, and they'll certainly be motivated. Someone like Chris Wood, who I think hasn't scored in 4 matches even prior to injury, and so he'll be ready to contribute in a match like that. He'll be up for it, and I could see the rest of the squad following suit. So I like us for 3 points either way.
So that would give us, from what we've just been discussing, that would give us 15 points. 15 points on top of 57 puts us on 72. 72 is guaranteed, in my eyes, that we get in Champions League. Even, guys, if we just win our home games, 4 home games, 12 points, lose the rest of the games, 12 points, you know, again, gives us enough. Let's take it back a step. Let's say we only win another 3, 9 points, or, you know, 9 points puts us in that mid-60s bracket as well. So for those of you out there, and I know I include myself, of worrying, thinking, you know, could it fall away? Would people just continuously laugh at us? Oh, you're getting above your station, and you know you should never have imagined you were going to make Champions League. You're always going to fail. You know, all those kind of thoughts creep into your minds a little bit. But being positive, and this is a place for positivity. I've said it all season: FA Cup win, Champions League qualification, and I am not moving away from that. This has been the season of seasons. Scott, you are going to be flying over soon to the UK to see some family. And I know you're going to the FA Cup semi-final. You were fortunate enough to grab a ticket. How excited are you for a trip to Wembley?
Oh, it's pretty special. I've not seen Forest play at Wembley, so incredibly excited about it. I think just the whole day as well. Some of the lads that I'm going to be going down with, you know, they've already got their, you know, from the championship playoff final. They kind of got into a good routine. They know, you know, where to park up, the good pubs to go to, then when to get to the game. So yeah, just really looking forward to it. My mate who got the tickets, there's like a virtual seating display on the website, and he showed me the view of you know, sensational seats. I feel very fortunate that you know, even though I live in Australia, I can go to the game. So just made up. If anything, I'm in trouble because my sons are both giving me grief. I'm saying, it won't be the same if you're not there with me. But they don't know. You should go and enjoy it. And the one thing I'm really looking forward to is hearing Mull of Kintyre. I think that when they start singing that, you know, 35,000 Forest fans, however many it is, it's going to be immense. And that's probably obviously a Forest win, but hearing all the Forest fans singing Mull of Kintyre, it'll be pretty special. Looking forward to it.
It's amazing at the City Ground because the cauldron is brilliant. But when I was at the playoff final, they gee up the crowd with their chants, and Mull of Kintyre from that end of Forest fans was amazing. So I am absolutely certain that no one in the world would begrudge you a chance to go. Scott, you live in Australia, you never get a chance to go to Forest games. I'm thrilled for you getting a chance to go, and you know, I want us to win anyway, but even more so now. So well done you. And Richard Spray over in Oklahoma, we're hoping still that you might be coming back over at some point, if not before the end of this season, certainly into next season as well. And I say to everybody that's listening, you know, We all want to go to games. We all want to be there in the flesh. And it goes back to the redevelopment of the City Ground. We're expecting news on that to come very soon, with the club laying down some cast iron guarantees potentially as to what's happening, when it's happening, and so on. We're hoping to have Matt Druitt come back on and do another one with the architect to give a proper update once we get a little bit more tangible news. But it just goes to show that the clamour for tickets is as hot as ever. It may be that, you know, you spend a few more pounds on a bit of hospitality. I say push the boat out if you can afford to do so. All right, that brings us to the end of this episode, but not before we do some score predictions for Saturday. I want to go round everybody. Give us your closing thoughts and give us your score prediction, Paul Morley.
Yeah, just want to follow on from what you're saying there about the crowd at Wembley and things like that. I think that, I mean, I know we're talking about Everton first and foremost, but I think just looking ahead to the semi-final, that is one big advantage we should have in that game is in the terraces, because this is going to be, I think I put it out on Twitter a few weeks ago, this will be Man City's 28th semi-final or final Wembley appearance in 14 years. So there's got to be an element of kind of Wembley apathy, I would have thought, within their fan base. You know, it's not.
There's already so many Man City tickets available on all the ticket places. No Forest tickets at all.
Exactly.
They're not bothered, are they?
Yeah, we need to overtake the stadium, make that day all about us. A bit like follow Newcastle's lead, like they did against Liverpool in the EFL Cup final, and really make it all about Forest. So I think that will be an advantage coming into that game. I'm sure we'll come back to that in the next couple of weeks. But for Saturday, my prediction is the same as Brucey in the chat: 2-0 to Forest. Not sure about a Cho brace, but I mean I'll set up for whoever scores. But yeah, 2-0 Forest. I'm going for Saturday.
2-0 to Forest. Scott from Down Under, what you're saying? Give us some final thoughts if you have them, and give us a score prediction, please.
Yeah, look, I think, you know, we need to use this game as a launching pad. You know, this is good performance at home, get 3 points, and then that just launches into, you know, this final running of games where we secure European football, Champions League football next season. I think we'll score a couple. Will we concede one? I'll go 2-1 just to be different. But one other thing I was just going to say, if I may, Greg, some of the Nottingham Forest fans over here in Australia, there's two groups. The Sydney supporters are going to Cheers Bar on George Street. That's the Sydney Reds, and the Melbourne Forest fans, the Melbourne Reds, they are meeting at the Imperial Hotel as well on Burke Street. So if you're a Forest fan in Sydney or Melbourne, get to those venues, cheer and cheer the team on. And sorry, yeah, 2-1 for me.
Fantastic. No, thank you, Scott. Appreciate it. It's always great to hear fans from New Zealand, Australia, America, wherever, all congregating together for the match. That's what it's all about. Richard Spray, closing thoughts and score prediction, please, sir.
Score prediction, yeah, I'm going to go probably with the rest of get those two goals, 2-0 win. But I'm going to say that Jota gets draws a penalty against Tarkowski because he's good for a foul, right? And he's good for giving up a penalty. So I think we'll finally get a penalty in our favor against Everton. So we'll buck that trend, and then we'll have Cho step up and get that penalty. But I think Alanga will get another goal in this game, I think, and so we'll win 2-0 and go from there. But yeah. Shout out to the NFFC NA group as well. They're going to be meeting up, I think, in a couple of weeks in Ohio and Columbus. And so looking forward to them being able to do that. They do a great job of promoting that and bringing fans from across the pond together. Yeah, there you go, Greg. Get in there.
Whilst I saw that earlier, Big on hospitality. I mean, I've got the thing open. Because I'm obviously here trying to host a podcast. I can't put my attention in. We're going to finish. I'm going to go to hospitality and see how much it's going to damage me, but we'll see. But look, just quickly before we close, I think that Forest bounced back from all those missed chances against Villa with a 4-0 win. I think actually they're going to blow us away. I think Anthony Alanga is going to have another one of these moments.
Tackle him! For God's sake, tackle him! Why aren't you tackling him?
Yeah, I think so. Alanga's going to rip him apart down that right, and we're going to have all the Everton fans going, tackle him! Hey, tackle him! And 4-0 to Forest. Don't worry, Reds fans. Don't worry, all right? We're positive. It's going to happen. FA Cup semi-final win and Champions League is our destination, with that FA Cup as well, I should say, in the final. So join us on Sunday as we do the review show. Thank you very much to Scott, to Paul, and my co-host Richard Spray. We are the Talking Reds. See you soon.
Come join Greg and Richard right here on Talk.